There have been several questions about how to exclude or include participants in data sets where you have either missing or particular responses, such as in the CombiRx infection data set of unsure, that you would like to exclude. There's a few different ways to do this and a few different approaches. The simplest way would be to do it on a per infection basis. This will, however, take the most amount of time because you have to exclude and include for each individual infection, but it's fairly straightforward. To do it on a per infection basis, click Analyze, Distribution. We'll click on, let's say, HHV6, press OK, and you can see here that we have two rows that are unsure. You can either click here in the histogram or click here on the row, and you'll see here in the rows menu in the lower left-hand corner, there are two rows that are selected. If I click on the 1, then I have 13 rows. If I click on the 2, you can see 329. We actually want the unsures, which are 3s, or you could have renamed them unsure, but in our case, the unsures are 3, and there are 2 selected. From here, I go to the rows menu and click Exclude, Unexclude, and you will see now that I have 2 excluded. And if you scroll through the data set, you will ultimately come across a row that has the little red no sign or symbol next to it, indicating that row has been excluded. You could then go about and do your analysis for that row. When you move on to the next infection, don't forget to re-include these rows. These participants may not also be missing in the next infection. So if I don't have those rows included, I would want to go and say to the rows menu, row selection, select excluded, and you see it will select them again. And then I go back to the rows menu and hit exclude, unexclude again. And now you can see that those rows are excluded, that were excluded are now included, and I no longer have any rows excluded. Each time that I have something selected, if you press the escape key, it will unselect it. And sometimes you have to press the escape key multiple times for that to happen. But you can see that I now have zeros all the way through here in my lower left-hand corner rows menu, and I have nothing selected or excluded. So that's a simple way by using the distribution menu and selecting or unselecting rows and then using the rows menu to exclude. You can also do the row selection menu. So I would like to select rows where. So row selection, select where. This will bring up a new menu that we haven't seen before. And basically what this menu does is allow you to pick a specific value or values or variables. So let's say measles, and that's on the left side is my variable. Measles equals, and there's a bunch of choices here. So I'm going to do equals 3 for unsure, and I'm going to press add that condition. Now I could add others. I could do all of them here in this way, but we'll talk about that in a moment. For now, let's just look at measles equals 3 and then press OK. And then you can see I have 7 rows that have been selected where measles equals 3. And then again, I would go through the process of excluding those rows, running my analysis, and re-including those rows and moving on to the next infection. If you want to exclude anyone with any missing values, and there can be some justifications for this, that if they're unsure on some infections, how confident do you feel about their responses on other infections? And there's some other biological plausibilities, perhaps, that you only want to include people that are sure of their infection statuses, and that's fine. You can go to the Analyze menu, and you'll want to select all of the infections. So I'm holding down the Command key in a Mac or Control in a Windows and selecting each of the variables that are associated with the infection status. And then pressing Y, and that will put them all in there. You can do them individually. Press OK. And this brings up the larger distribution. In the Analyze Distributions window, you can then select the 3. and hold down the Command key and continue to select 3s as you go through. And you can watch as the selecteds include the numbers that you need. There are 15 participants, 15 total, that have any missing. And again, then I would exclude or unexclude, and then you could do the analyses all at once. I'll go back to the menu here, and I'm going to go rows, row selection, select excluded, rows include, or exclude, unexclude. So now back to my regular data set. You could do the Analyze menu one by one and select them. The other way that you could do it is to do the row selection. So rows, row selection, select where. And then go back through here and then select each infection equals 3, add condition. Epstein-Barr equals 3, add condition. And I'm going to go through the remainder of them and add the condition. I'll pull this down so you can see that they're all being added. Add condition, scarlet fever, add condition, and finally down to whooping cough, add condition. Now what's important here is the row selection. You can see currently here it says select rows if all conditions are met. That would actually select rows that all had 3s, and that's not what we're interested in. We're interested if any have 3s. So I'll change this to if any of the conditions is met. And what jump will do now is select a row that has any of these conditions. So any set to unsure, and press OK. And you can see again here that there are now 15 rows selected. I could then go and exclude them. The third and final way to do this is from the Tables menu. So I'm going to go Tables, Summary, and it will bring up the summary window. And then I want to put each of my infections, and again I'm holding the Command or Control key depending upon your operating system to select all 7 infections and say Group. Press OK. And it brings up a table that has 36 rows, and this is the pattern of all the responses. So there's one person that has this pattern of responses. There are 15 people that only had the pneumonia. There are 21 people that had measles and mono. Our most common here you can see is people that had mono or that had measles. But what we're looking for is anything that has a 3. And you can see that we don't have any all 3s here. So you could go through here and say, okay, there's a 3 there. I'm going to select that. There's a 3 there. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select this 3. But this could be very time consuming. What you'd want to do is go back through the rows selection. And then as it turns out, you can see I have 4 rows selected here that total 5 total rows. And if you go back here, you can see I have 5 rows selected in the main data set. The jump data tables talk to each other. So as long as it's a subset, like this is, or a summary set, any row I select in here will then also be selected there. So if I select the row that has 129 observations, you can see there's 129 selected here. For this particular data set, because our missingness patterns or our unsure patterns are not very clear, this would be a time-consuming way, but it's also a very easy way to find large chunks of your data. And so this is the way that you can select or unselect the infections. Just make sure you're clear how you excluded people. Did you do it by infection, or did you do it for the infections unsure at all? So it will be either a total of 15 missing, or then you'll have a different N per infection if you do it